afternoon and welcome to Virginia's Views and Vibes. This afternoon I have a special guest, Ron Gaudette. He is actually founder and member of CTCC, Critical Trauma, Critical Care. And he has a remarkable story, and we get to listen to him and hear his side and his story. We are so fortunate to have him here with us today. Welcome, Ron. Thank you so much for coming. You're a busy, busy person with an unbelievable, respectable career in saving people's lives.
Thank you. It's my honor to help carry on some of the story that we have to tell from that fateful day in September.
I can't believe it's 25 years, and you were one of the first people, part of the CTCC team, to go to 9/11 Ground Zero. Talk about that experience.
Well, we had actually got started through a short breakfast meeting with Dr. Susan Briggs, trauma surgeon at Mass General Hospital. And the idea at the moment was I was trying to tap her brain for some information that I needed for an international problem that I was working on through the Harvard School of Public Health. I offered her breakfast to tap her brain, and within that 20-minute breakfast, she invited me to become a part of a team that she was just founding at the time. I agreed, thinking that not too much would come of it. She swore me in, walked over to her office, subsequently federalized over the coming year. This was in 1999. And we had our first training at the Bedford VA, right nearby. We were able to set up all of our tents, or what we call our DRASH, Deployable Rapid Assembly Surgical Hospital. We were able to go through drills in cooperation with the National Guard and U.S. Air Force. Very important to understand the incident command system. That is, if you're at any scenario, there's often an interworking relationship with different agencies, depending on whether it's the military, the firefighters, police officers, and we have to understand the basic incident command system so that information can flow from the bottom up to the top, and then accurate information can be conveyed to the team. So we had our first training. This was in June of 2001. Next moment, September 11, that morning, I received a call from the person that I reported to, and he said, "How soon can you be at the hospital?" And I said, "Within 2 hours."
Wow.
He said, "Make it 1."
Wow.
So I arrived at Mass General at about 1:30 in the afternoon. Many of the members of the team, they're surgeons, anesthesiologists, surgical nursing, biomedical engineering. Some of them were still in surgery doing cases at the hospital. And everybody really convened by around 5:30, 6 that evening. We went from there out to the Bedford VA, where we formed our team. We also formed sub-teams. And then importantly, for safety matters, we have a buddy system set up.
Right.
So our logistics component of the team went out to Logan Airport, picked up 10 SUVs, brought them out to us. we loaded all of our gear and drove straight from there to. We were the only convoy. We were the only vehicles on the Mass Pike.
Wow.
Eerily quiet, and we drove from there to Fort Stewart Air Base in New York. Arrived there at about 12:30 in the morning. Our second team, Massachusetts 2, coming out of Worcester, shortly followed us. We spread out all of our gear and tried to get some sleep between then and 5:30 in the morning when we met at the mess hall. And at that point, Dr. Briggs had called us into a circle. And she said, you know, we're not sure where we may be going. We may be going to LaGuardia to put tags on bodies. Anyone who has a concern with that, please step outside of the circle. Well, nobody stepped outside of the circle. In fact, one of our orthopedic surgeons stepped forward and said, Dr. Briggs, we are here with you and for you for as long as you need us, for whatever you need us to do. And that sort of set the stage for our mission. She also has experience in the military, so there is this concept of circle of mandate where you afford the team members to opt in voluntarily. And you also entrust them at that moment with their skill sets. We were all a very seasoned group of individuals. I myself, having worked in the ICU settings at Mass General, one of our team members is a former Marine. Dr. Briggs had served in the military. We had the chief of burns from Mass General, also the chief of burns at the Shriners Hospital for burns. All of the nurses were seasoned nurses, surgical nurses. So in terms of our skill sets, we were all pretty confident in our skill sets.
This was not your first event. You had been, I think, with one of the hurricanes at one point. This wasn't the first.
The World Trade Center was my first deployment.
Was it really?
So that was my first deployment.
Wow.
And so we went from Fort Stewart Air Base in the morning to the Chelsea Pier in New York.
Wow.
We were there on September 12th. As we streamed down Lower Manhattan, the police were flagging us through every intersection. And then we waited until about 9 o'clock that night when we got the go-ahead to go into the cordoned-off area.
Wow.
They transported us into the cordoned-off area, and along the way, small section of the South Tower, some of the exoskeleton of the South Tower was still up. Along the way in, a part of it had fallen, and they paused us for a short time. So we waited, and then we finally got going, and they brought us into right in front of the famous Stuyvesant High School. And at that point, we gathered as much. It didn't look like a high school at the time. As we ascended the staircase, there were intravenous poles. There were metal racks with all kinds of gauze, intravenous fluids, and at that point, the decision had been made that we would set up our first triage center diagonally across the street at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. So we arrived there. We had brought a lot of the same material over to the quad of the Borough of Manhattan Community College. And Dr. Briggs called us again into that circle. Basically said, this is what we trained for. We've promised the fire commissioner that we would have our site set up by 0700. Let's go. Let's do it. And so at that point, I have to say that as I looked up into the sky, there was, all you could see was smoke. The fires were still burning. It had rained a little. There was steam coming off of the girders. There were hundreds of firefighters walking, but eerily quiet. Nobody was really saying anything, and this is just shortly, this is the night before the bucket brigade had actually begun. And I quite honestly was paralyzed for a moment. I didn't know if I was adequately prepared, or in that setting, what it was that I could provide.
That's my question. Wow. How did you manage to walk into that after being your extensive training, but to actually see what to all of us, and probably to you, looked like the end of the world? Your country was attacked, but you're seeing firsthand the damage to not just the city, our country, but you knew what your job was to do there that night and that following day. How did you process that?
Well, I trust we had an incredible team, and I trusted them. We trusted one another. We trusted our lives in each other's hands. And we had a mission, and I personally felt that, well, initially I felt unprepared. I felt that I had to do my best.
Yeah.
And so we set up, we had no idea what medications we had. We had 5 big duffel bags filled with medications. There were no lights, no electricity. We brought those duffel bags into one of the hallways of the Borough of Manhattan Community College, emptied everything out on the floor. We had headlamps that we used to see what we had. And we had promised at that point that we would have our site set up by 0700. It was now about 2:30 in the morning, so that didn't leave us with a lot of time. I had to figure out pretty quickly, along with a colleague, how do we set these medications up in our initial tent so that it would afford easy access to the physicians, the nurses, and anyone else who needed medications. We thought that, based on the environment we were in, that we needed medications for advanced cardiac life support, ACLS. We needed ophthalmic medications. There was all kinds of stuff in the air. The data had showed that there were over 500,000 cubic yards of cement that came down, and over 400,000 plates of glass, and everything was dust. So there was all kinds of stuff in the air. Early on, not a lot of people were wearing masks. There was lots of eye irritation. So again, we set up for 4 categories: advanced cardiac life support, ophthalmic, respiratory, and general wound care. And it simplified things so that people knew where to go. We set that up, and we saw our first firefighter at 10 after 6 in the morning. So we beat our timeline by 50 minutes. And that in and of itself gave us a huge emotional boost at the time, because we had beat that. We had beat our timeline under every imaginable challenge that you could think of. And mind you, all of us had been up for at least 2 days by that point, because we had been up early in the morning. We went to the Fort Stewart Air Base and back to the Chelsea Pier, then into the cordoned off area. And by that time, we had been up for a couple of days. We got the thumbs up from the fire commissioner to go in and set up the other 4 stations. You have to remember there was a 7-story hole in the middle, and we wanted to set up medical aid stations on each corner of the pile so that we could afford access to the walking wounded, as it were, so that we could both triage and then refer those individuals who we thought might need more advanced workup. And so initially we saw about 500 people a day, and very busy. We ultimately set up sites also at the Amex building, American Express. That was our second site. I don't know if I can bring up.
The people you were seeing were not victims necessarily of the towers. They were firefighters.
There were firefighters. They were. We had veterinary people there because we had dogs.
Yeah.
We had social workers, of course. Everybody was federalized at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We were self-sustaining. We were self-sustaining teams.
Yeah.
So we set up sites at first the Borough of Manhattan Community College, then the Amex building, then a blown-out deli, which is now the site of the 9/11 Museum, and then another freestanding tent. And they were initially 12-hour on, 12-hour off shifts. But I have to say they wouldn't let me go the first time, because in case they had questions, they wanted me to be there. So I basically slept on a cot inside one of the classrooms at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. And
you were on autopilot, and you were, honestly, while we were sleeping, you were working hard, working magic. You were saving people. The firefighters are people that, like you said, walked among the rubble, got injured, and all while we slept, while we mourned, your crew was busy saving people, bringing them light, and you did.
We did, actually. We have a burn specialty team. We were the only team in the country, and I think still are, that has a burn specialty team. Much of them come from the Shriners Hospital for Burn and our burn unit at Mass General.
Sure.
So they didn't go to the Stuyvesant High School. They went directly to the Cornell Burn Center, and they just chipped in with the burn nurses there, and they were able to fit in almost immediately.
Yeah. Because
this is something that they did.
How long were you there?
11 days.
11 days.
11 days.
Just I'm looking back at what we saw on the news and the information we were given. The people the thousands of people, I think, were out on the street putting posters up, looking for their loved ones. You had to walk by that.
Yeah, we had to. They were also there. Ultimately, we ended up staying at the W Hotel. We shared rooms. There were as many as 6 people in a room. But they would bus us in, do a head count, and then bus us out, do another head count.
Wow.
and but we did see all of those posters constantly. It was very heartbreaking the entire time we were there.
I guess, and there were probably many moments of these moments, but what is something that you will take with you forever? What was it, the fact that you were able to help firefighters and dogs and the survivors, and like you say, there were psychologists there. There's probably many, but one particular moment that you'll remember and be thankful for, or never forget?
Well, there are a couple of moments. The one is the first moment that I was actually in the cordoned off area and looked up and could see that big spotlight and the crane. And the second one was September 12th. I have never seen such unity in our country. And you know, all in one moment you saw the worst and the best of humanity. And it's my hope that we can achieve that sense of unity again. We were able to help out these firefighters quite a bit. I mean, none of them brought their medications with them, their antihypertensives, their diabetes medications.
Wow.
There was a couple that we thought may have had evolving heart attacks, so we quickly triaged them over to the Cornell Medical Center. There was one person that had we thought an evolving closed head injury, had fallen, slipped on one of the girders. Yeah, so those moments were the two that will never leave me, are that initial setting foot into the cordoned off area. And
you saw the best that this country could be. You being one of the best, by the way, but you saw the best people helping people caring about people. And I suppose even with all of the trauma people, there was a feeling that you were all there to make things better, and you did.
Yeah, I like to think that served as a valuable crucible for us to take home lessons and to actually later on apply that to Hurricane Katrina.
Yes.
Hurricane Harvey was one of the last ones in Houston. President Bush sent us to Iran, where there had been 34,000 killed by the earthquake. We were able to treat 1,000 crush injuries, deliver 6 babies, perform 7 trauma surgeries in the tent, including an amputation. But we were able to take those lessons and transport those across the globe, because we never viewed anyone by other than being there needing our help.
Right.
So we cared, as Dr. Peter Slavin from Mass General wrote to us in a letter following our deployment to Iran and back. We cared for people, all people, and we showed the world that the art of medicine is in fact caring for all people.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you still volunteer? Do you still go where you're needed? Even now, after this many years, would you still get on in that vehicle, that SUV, and drive and do it again.
Oh yes, I just got an email this week for the Venezuelan.
I was just going to ask you. There are 2 earthquakes that.
Yeah, some of the team members from Florida and were combined. At one point, we had initially it was just the Boston team, but then they expanded to Miami, Florida, and then to Seattle, Washington. So we had. At the time, we weren't. Our team wasn't called the Trauma Critical Care Team. It was the International Medical Surgical Response Team. And so we had the Boston team, we had the Miami team, and the Seattle, Washington team. It's now combined. So, and in the combination, it's now Trauma Critical Care. But Dr. Briggs and our team had set standards that actually have been published in the surgical journals, disaster medicine journals, as standards of response in crisis.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm ready to go.
Wow.
And of course, I responded. I responded right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go to the marathon bombing? Were you called for that, the marathon that day? Or?
No, some of our team members. We support. That's a very good question. We support. Oft times when we're not deploying to a certain disaster, we support public events like air shows, Boston Marathon, July 4th along the Esplanade. So what they'll do is they'll put together smaller teams, and we did have some of our team members that were medical support. Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge, really quick, because I'm saying 1 minute. The biggest challenge about this was it keeping yourself calm, doing your job, or you're an autopilot. The biggest challenge was it trying to deal with lack of sleep.
That's a good question, because you have a limited amount of resources. And initially at Ground Zero, we were going through tetanus like water. We were going through inhalers, as you might imagine.
Yes.
We were going through ophthalmics. And I had to ration. I had to think ahead. In fact, I had to request some support from different pharmacy directors within the Cornell medical system. But and when we were in Iran, we had no American embassy there, so I really had to ration. And my biggest challenges were always making sure that I could respond to what was needed.
Well, I'm seeing that we're almost out of time, but first of all, you have to come back, and I hope you'll write a book, because you've talked about life's lessons, challenges, and gifts, and you've given us all of that. Thank you so much for taking time and joining us, and you'll come back again.
My honor
God
to be
bless
with you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.